Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Well, it's picnic and eating outside season, and all the talk in our cooking group is about potato salad. So I thought I would share my Greek potato salad recipe. I really have no idea if there's anything authentically Greek about this salad, except that it's made with tzatziki sauce. And so I'm going to show you how to make tzatziki sauce in this video. Before we start, if you like our videos, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you click the little bell in the top right, you'll get a notice when I post new videos. Now let's get started. I like to use red potatoes for this particular salad, and when I can get them, I like to use very small, new red potatoes. I washed them well under running water, used a brush to get off any little loose pieces of dirt or skin, and cut out any little bad spots. And then I'm going to fill this full of cold water. This is going to make a big bowl, something big enough for you to take to a covered dish dinner or a dinner on the grounds or on a big picnic for a lot of people. And you can make less, but I don't really know how. Well, I know how, I just am not in the habit of it. So I'm going to take this with me tomorrow on an outing. When you're cooking potatoes, and I'm cooking these whole, you really should always add the salt while they're cooking, because, you know, potatoes are kind of bland without salt. And I just think you never get them quite salty enough if you don't add it while they're cooking so that the potatoes absorb it. So I'm putting in a good bit. That's probably 2 teaspoons full. And I'm going to set this on the stove to boil. They'll need to boil about 30 minutes. You want to make sure they're totally done all the way through. And while they're cooking, we'll make the tzatziki sauce. It's really a simple sauce. This is strained Greek yogurt. I'm going to use a cup of that. This is 1 cucumber. I'm going to grate a cup of that. And normally I use a lemon, but I don't have a lemon, so I'm going to use this lime. And up to 2 tablespoons full, I'll make it up with white vinegar if it's not enough. This is minced garlic. You can use fresh. And a little bit of salt. And I've got here some fresh dill. And you can use dried dill, you can use dill weed, you can use mint. And first I'm going to grate up about a cup of cucumber, and I've just washed it well. You don't have to peel it. You can if you want to. It's prettier if you don't. Usually with tzatziki you want to use an English cucumber or something young with few seeds and thin skin. I'm just using what I have. And you could use a food processor, but to be honest, we're going to squeeze all the liquid out of this. And if you use a food processor, that's harder and you don't get as good a result. So grating works best. So when you get a cup of grated cucumber, you're going to squeeze it out on a paper towel or a cheesecloth and get it pretty dry. We don't want any loose liquid in there at all. So the easy way to do this is I'm going to put everything, all of these ingredients, into a 4-cup measuring cup or into a container to use the stick blender with, the immersion blender. That's the easiest way to put it all together. And you actually can just put it in a bowl and mix it with a whisk, but this is just easier. So this is 1 cup of the Greek strained yogurt. Nothing in it, just the Greek strained yogurt. And this is pretty simple to make, by the way. I've got a video on how to make your own Greek strained yogurt. And then I'm going to put in the cucumbers. And you can see I've got the liquid out of it. But they're not squeezed to death. There's still a little moisture inside the pieces, but nothing wet and drippy. And then we're going to add the garlic, and that's a whole teaspoonful of garlic. And if you're using fresh garlic, probably about 4 cloves. And then I made up a little of the lime juice with some white wine vinegar to make sure that I got enough acid in there. And that's about 2 tablespoons full. You can use any light colored acid, lemon juice, white vinegar. I'm using the lime and white vinegar. But lemon juice is the traditional acid to add to tzatziki sauce. So now the dill, I washed it and patted it dry and finely chopped about a tablespoonful. Truth is, you can put as much dill in this as you like. And if you couldn't find the dill, a lot of people use mint, and you can use a mixture of dill and mint. So I've pulsed this for about 30 seconds and got it mixed together well. And at this point, I want to taste it. I have some salt here, and I can't tell you how much because you have to do it by taste. It depends on your cucumber. If your cucumber is older, it might have a little bitterness to it, and the salt will cut that vinegar. When you taste it, you may not want any salt in it at all, but I'm going to put, that's about 1/8 of a teaspoonful of salt, just enough to cut any bitterness that might be in a cucumber. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to say 6 drops. I'm sorry I didn't measure this. I just put about 6 drops of olive oil. This is optional. I just think it adds a little more fullness to the flavor. And now I'm going to blend those together just a little bit. And that's all there is to making tzatziki sauce. And, you know, if you are one of those people who don't like mayonnaise, this is a wonderful substitute for mayonnaise in almost any salad. You can use it on top of a tossed salad. It's the perfect topping for lamb and any kind of a meat sandwich. It's just amazing stuff and so easy to make and so good for you. I'm going to set this in the fridge, and it will firm up a good bit sitting in the fridge, just about 20 or 30 minutes, which is the time I have. It's better after it sits a little bit, and I'll let this chill until the potatoes are done and have cooled down enough to safely handle, and then I'll be back. These cooked at a high temp for 30 minutes, and I tested them with a fork to make sure there was no resistance, and then I let them sit in cold water long enough to chill. I'll show you the ingredients now. I've got the potatoes. I'm going to use half of this purple onion. I've got 4 green onions. Use any mix of onion you like. I've got 1 stick of celery and 1 carrot. Now I'm going to add, besides the salt and pepper there, I'm going to add just a little mayonnaise to mine. You surely don't have to, but that's how my folks like it. If you will notice, one regular potato salad ingredient that's missing here is boiled eggs. I don't use eggs in this. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how I prepare the vegetables for this. I like to use the big pieces of onion, the big round pieces of onion, and I like to shave it as thinly as I can. And, you know, I'm used to doing things with a knife instead of a chopper or a food processor. You don't have to do it this way. You can put it in a chopper, you can grate it, you can put it in your food processor. I like to have the nice pieces of purple onion, mostly because of how they look. No, my knife is not dull, by the way. It's plenty sharp. I just do this very, very slowly so that I can get them thinner and thinner. I probably could have gotten them a little bit thinner, but you can see what I'm doing. I like to have those nice pieces of long, thin onion strands. I just think it makes it look better. And then I'll chop up these 4 green onions, and I want to keep a good portion of the green part, and I'll chop these pretty small like that. This is more about the looks than the flavor. There are a lot of onions in this particular potato salad recipe, and I like to use the purple and the green. But as far as flavor goes, you're just fine with just using your regular sweet yellow onions. This is 1 carrot. It was a kind of a large carrot. I never grate the carrots for this particular potato salad. I often grate the carrots for my regular potato salad, but I like this better, both visually and the texture, the mouthfeel, to have tiny little chunks of carrots. They add just a little bit of crunch, but you want to make sure that they're chopped pretty finely. And I'm going to go through and give them a rough cut, and then I'll go through with my knife and chop them even more finely than this. If you have a mandolin or some kind of a chopper in your kitchen where you can chop them up and get them into tiny pieces, as opposed to the very thin long pieces you get when you grate, that would be my recommendation. And this does take a little extra time, but I don't make this often. So I'm going to go through now and give them an extra chop or two, because I don't want any big pieces. But when I bite into it, I want to know the carrots are there. So we're getting them pretty small now. You know, I end up using a knife instead of other devices more times than not, mostly because I don't use a lot of those devices. I have a food processor, but even if I have tools to use, sometimes I don't get them out just because I don't want one more thing to wash. So I think these carrots are how I like them. So I just did a regular fine chop on the celery, so I didn't think you wanted to watch that. And now I'm going to cut up the potatoes. Now, I did not peel these potatoes on purpose. I'm going to leave some of the skin in the potatoes. I'll take off any pieces that come loose as I'm cutting. And it's one of the reasons I like to use the red potatoes. They have a nice thin skin, and they add a nice color. That's certainly a personal preference, but when you get, or when I've gotten Greek potato salad in a restaurant, most often there's skin on the potatoes. So I'm going to chop all these potatoes up and assemble this, and then I will be right back. So I've assembled all the ingredients in my great big old bowl, and because you're going to need a lot of room for mixing. Then I'm going to add a teaspoonful of salt, and that's not going to be too much. This is a lot of ingredients, and we'll taste when I'm done with it to see if I need even more. But if we salted our potatoes sufficiently at the beginning, a teaspoonful should be enough. And then I'm going to grate on some freshly ground black pepper. Not a whole lot, but enough that we'll see an occasional pepper flake. And only use fresh ground if you're going to use it. You could use some red pepper flakes. I like it that way too. Now, I failed to show you this at the beginning. I'm using a half teaspoonful of ground oregano. And I'll make sure that that's in the ingredient list in the info section. And that's about all. Now we're going to put on our dressing. I'm going to start with a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, my trusty Duke's mayonnaise, and spread it out a little bit through here. The mayonnaise, as I said, is optional. I'm not going to use the whole amount of the tzatziki sauce, but if you don't add the mayonnaise, you probably will. Now, I'm going to have to estimate an amount of this sauce to add because truthfully what you do is just add it until you get the texture you want. I'm going to use about 3/4 of a cup of the tzatziki, and you'll mix that up. You may even, if you don't like it really juicy, you may even start with a 1/2 cup, and then add it by the tablespoonful until you get the desired consistency, until everything is covered. And you know, the mixture of mayonnaise and tzatziki sauce, it sticks to the vegetables really well. But as we let this chill, you know, the vegetables will weep. The sauce will sort of pool to the bottom, and you'll need to stir it again before you serve it to check. And if you don't have quite enough, you can add some more tzatziki before you serve it. But if you put too much, then you've kind of got a soupy potato salad. You know how that goes. You've made potato salad probably. So don't overdo the tzatziki at this point. You can always add a little bit more. As always, we're going to taste for salt. Yeah, look at that. Look how that dressing adheres to the potato. And it's a nice soft potato. And, you know, this is just the best potato salad ever. Let's plate some up. So this is a great side dish, or this is a light and tasty summer lunch. I'm going to dip into this. And, you know, I already tasted it. I know it's wonderful. And I feel like I need to issue a warning with this recipe. Make this once. Take it to a family gathering or a church supper or a picnic, and you'll be asked to bring it every time for the rest of your life. And I hope you make it anyway. I hope you'll love it. And I hope you join us again tomorrow on Debbie's Back Porch.